Alright guys, if you're here and watching the video, go ahead and chat into the YouTube chat there, and I'll know you're here. If you're not here, don't chat anything. Sorry I had to change the link last minute. I should probably go ahead and post this to Slack, and I'll do that. And we'll again. So if you're there, even if you're not like logged into YouTube, I'm not sure how YouTube Live works all the way through as far as audience goes, but it seems to work pretty well for the juniors. So if you're here, just shoot a message into the chat, and we'll get started here in 5 minutes. Maybe we can have some waiting music. That's too much. I gotta add in capture devices and everything. I'll do that next time. I hope you're doing okay. Hope everybody in your family is healthy. Stinks being out of school. I know for you all, elements of it stink. Some elements are cool, like you don't have to do hopefully as much work, but I'm trying to keep your workload light. Seems to be effective based on the survey results we got. We can take a look at those real quick, I think, while we're waiting. I need to go to forms. And I mentioned in classroom I'm going to start giving feedback and grades this week now that we have guidance from JCPS on how we can do that. So I know you are maybe anxious to see what changes have happened to your grades since we've started working on this stuff, and I want to get that to you as quickly as possible. So we'll do that. Let's see, this is not the correct one. It has no responses. Must be this one that I incorrectly have titled APCSP. Okay, so yeah, regarding the quantity of work assigned, 61% of you said that it's just right. These are 18 people responding. Obviously, this isn't representative of the whole group, but it's 18 people, so we're going to take what we can get. Quality of work. At first, I thought that this was blue. I'm colorblind. I'm a little colorblind, so I thought that 33% said this is entirely busy work. I was like, oh man, okay, well I need to readjust. But instead, that's only the essential work. I needed to understand the content. So at least more than half of you, right? 33 plus 27, that's about 60%. So about 60% say we're working on mostly essential stuff, which is, I'm happy with that. Okay, you guys are clear on where your assignments are, and if not, you know where to find them. If you're confused, right? I did not know what to do for some elements of the work, but used the resources and got unstuck, or I knew what to do for each element assigned. So only about 27% of you are getting stuck from this group. And if you are getting stuck, what you need to do is check in for office hours from 8 to 10 p.m. pretty much any night. Ask questions on Slack. Shoot me a text message. My phone number is on the NTI homepage. But you need to do what you have to do to get in contact with me to help you get unstuck. Simply waiting it out and hoping that nothing's going to happen is not going to be an effective thing to do, especially if you want to bring your grade up. Now, as far as grades going down, that's a whole nother matter, but if you want to bring your grade up from this semester, make sure you're doing what you need to do to get in contact with me to ask questions. I'm available all the time, almost. So anyway, again, go ahead and throw a message in the chat if you are here, and we're going to get started here in about 2 minutes. I'll go ahead and move over to where I'm going to be working. Oh wait, we're going to do our little presentation rundown first. We got to do this. I know it's very early at 11:30. I don't mean that in a condescending way. I know for you it's early. I used to wake up late too. I did go for a good walk this morning around 7:30. It was nice outside. Still nice outside. It's a beautiful day. Hopefully you're outside. Maybe you're outside and you're not watching this. And for that, I mean, I don't blame you. Okay. So it's 11:34. I'm not seeing any messages in the chat. I want to go ahead and get this started. So welcome to NTI Week 3. This is the live lecture for computational thinking. We're talking about reading and writing files in Python still. Review from last week. We know we can write to files line by line now. We have these 3 different modes. We've got a W mode that overwrites any existing data and allows us to create new files and write to them. We've got the append mode, which allows us to write to files, and that always adds data to the end of the file. And then we've got this X mode, and that allows us to write data to a new file, and if we've already got a file that exists, it will throw an error which we can handle in some way. So that's pretty much what we looked at last week. And then you had your assignments 10.3, 10.4, and 10.5 in Python Crash Course. Those were pretty straightforward, and I'll be throwing up some solutions for those soon. Today's lecture, what we're going to work on is building a simple program that can create new files and write to them, append to existing files, and display information from those files using the console. Now, this week's assignment is we're going to complete, or you are going to complete, the recipe book project, which is posted in Classroom by Tuesday. So it's not due on Friday like everything else was, and this is your only assignment for this week, and it's due on Tuesday, okay? And what we're going to talk about in today's lecture should help you a lot with working on that assignment. Again, I'll be posting the solutions to 10.3, 10.4, and 10.5 pretty soon. So, I've kind of gone back and forth about what I want to do with this code, and I'll go ahead and move over to REPL. You know, there's a ton of stuff you could do that would be a good example for what you're going to work on with recipe book. And it took me a little while to decide, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a program that lets me keep track of my performance in a game called Dota 2. I'll go ahead and bring up Dota. Oh, I actually ran it. I didn't want to run it. Whoops. Well, we'll close it out here. Dota 2 is a game if you've ever heard of League of Legends, it's kind of like League of Legends, except it's much better. And anyway, I'm not going to go into the whole what you do in Dota 2. Just know that you play games and you can win or lose the games. You can play different characters. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of keep a journal, so to speak, of our performance in Dota 2. We're going to keep track of the hero that we played for that game. And then we're going to have a little place where we can keep a short narrative about how we felt about the game. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started. You know that the first thing we want to do whenever we're writing a program like this is think about our requirements. And, you know, for the recipe book, I'm not requiring that you write your own custom functions, but you might get to the point where your program gets complex enough that you want to include some functions. However, we've talked about in class, probably the easiest way to start to write code is to write down what you want that code to do and then try to write functions around that. So let's go back to let's look at the instructions. So if I bring up Google Classroom, or I'll just bring up the Google Doc itself. It should be right here. So I've got recipe book, minor project 3. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what we're looking at here. Hopefully that should be big. All right, so the minimum things we want our program to do is allow a user to create new recipe files, add new information to the end of a recipe file, read and display the recipe information to the console. So we're going to work on something that's pretty similar here, except it's going to deal with a video game and not a recipe. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to be able to do is, print my header. I always like to make a nice little header, okay, for my application, so I know what's happening, like what it is I'm about to interact with. And then the next thing I want to do is create a game record, is what I'll call it. for a Dota 2 game. And then, let's see, I want to be able to show the game record, or show game records maybe. We'll do show the game record first, and then maybe we can expand it to handle records. And then add to a game record. All right. And then we need a main method, or a main function that's going to do everything for us. And we can go and define these functions. We might call this one update record. In order to do its job, it probably needs a game record. So we'll go ahead and give it a parameter there. We'll say show record. That needs a record as well. And then creating a game record. That doesn't need anything for now. And then a header. All right, cool. So I get some caffeine so I can keep going. The first thing I want to do is handle this really easy print header function. I'm just going to say print, put in some kind of characters here to make a cool title bar thing. Dota 2, actually Dota performance tracker. Sure, why not? And then we'll print some more of these guys. Cool. All right, and in order to use that function, I've got to call it down in my main method. And I need to actually call my main method as well if I'm going to expect it to work. So I'll say just main down here. Now notice that Replit is trying to help you out. It's saying, hey, do you want to do this guy? Well, let me. Do you want to do this? Never mind, Replit doesn't help you in that way, but PyCharm would. So we can say if name equals main, then main. But you don't have to do that. What did I do wrong here? There we go. All right, cool. That's best practice when we're calling our main method. You don't have to do that, but you can if you want. You can just put main out there. All right. So we're going to run main. Let's see. Did it print our header? No, it did not. What's it doing? What did I do wrong? If double underscore name equals main, print header. Maybe I did something wrong here. I'll drop this and we'll come back to it later. We can just say main. All right, there we go. All right, that looks a little messed up, so I'm gonna fix it. Perfect. Okay, so there's our header. The first thing we want to do is we want to create a record so that we can reference or we can input some data about a Dota 2 game that we've just played. Now, the easiest thing that we can really keep track of is if we won the game and if we or what hero we played. Those are the two easiest things I could keep track of for a Dota 2 game. And that's what I'm going to do. So in order to create a record, I need to get input from the user. So I'll just do this. I'll say win-loss input, or just, yeah, win-loss input, like that. Did you win or lose the game? Right? And notice I haven't really written anything to a file yet. I'm still just working on the creating the record itself, and then we'll work on building the file read-write parts. So did you win or lose the game? And we'll give them some kind of indicator about, just type in a W or an L there. And let's say hero input is going to be the input. Did you, or what hero did you play? Great. All right. Now that will make a record for us. So let me think about it for a second. How do I want to do this? We could store it in a tuple. Because those things aren't going to change. I like that. So we'll say return a tuple that is win-loss input and hero input. Okay. So now when I run my main method, the first thing I want to do is print the header out, and then I want to create a new record. So I'll say new record is create record. All right. So we're calling create record here. It's being stored in new record. We're not doing anything with it yet, but we'll go ahead and run our code and make sure it works. Here we go. So did you win or lose the game? Let's say we won, and I played Mars. Okay. Now, program stops there. It's done its job. There's no looping here that keeps us creating new records or anything like that. But I should have some data stored in new record. No, I don't, because the program's no longer running. Let's do this then. We'll say print new record. All right. We'll say W Mars again. All right, there we go. So new record contains a tuple with the input that I had for create record. All right. Next thing we want to do is, since we've got a record right here, we want to write it to our to some journal, right? To some kind of persistent data source, because we can't show the record or update the record in that file until we've actually written to the file. So we'll do that in our main method here. We'll say with open new Dota journal.txt. In write mode, we will say as f. I'm going to say f.write. So let's see what happens when we just write the tuple. If we just write the tuple, I wonder what happens. So let's do that. We'll say we won again. This time we played X. The right argument must be a string, not a tuple. Okay, well that makes sense. So we didn't write anything. We get an error, which is great. We can't just use a tuple here. We have to accurately, or not accurately, that's not the right word. We have to write with a string, so we need to get the strings out of our tuple. Thankfully, we know that tuples are just like lists, and we can access whatever's at position 0 and position 1 here pretty easily. Now, you might be thinking, why are you using a tuple? Why not a dictionary or something like that? Ultimately, this data right here, the format in which you're storing your data, as far as Python's concerned, is really up to you. You could use a list here. You could use just one continuous string. It just depends on what you're trying to do. This is the area where the area of your code when we talk about doing some extras, like storing recipes, recipe books, and or users as instances of a properly constructed class. This is a good place for a class to come in to play if you want to do that. So anyway, that's again a good place to get some advanced stuff going. But for our write method here on line 26, we're just going to say we'll write an f string and make it pretty. We'll say the game win-loss was a new record 0. And you can see now why, like, having an attribute of win or using a named tuple, if you want to check that out, would be really cool here. But we'll leave it like it is just for simplicity's sake. Okay, so game win-loss is new record 0. And then we'll have a new line. And we'll say new line hero is new record 1. That looks good. We'll run this again and see if it works now. This will be a win. We'll play with axe again, and let's see what happened. Okay, cool. We've got a pretty decent appearance to this. Now, something we could spend more time on is getting this to sort of align correctly and all that kind of stuff. But you know, the more I think about this, the more we probably want to have some kind of more consistent formatting here, because when we read it, we really only probably want to look at, well, we'll see. Let's just see what happens. Okay. Let's go with show record. Let's go ahead and check out show record here. So show record is going to require that we read from the existing file and then present that data in the console. So we'll say with open record. No. Yeah, this is fine. I think. How do I want to do this? We're gonna end up having a menu with some options here, I think, but should we get the record out of the file? Let's do this, because I think you'll end up writing code that's more similar to what I'm about to do. So let's change this to record file name, and we're going to open up that file name here as f, and then we'll just say f.read for now. Okay, we'll leave that there. We'll pause there, and then what we'll do is let's go ahead and create a menu, because now we're doing more than just creating records. So let's do this. We'll say cmd for command. Do you want to create a new record? And we can put these brackets here. You've seen me do this in class before. I'm using these brackets. This has nothing to do with the code. It doesn't affect the code at all. It's just a suggestion to the user on what key they should press if they want to, or what key they should enter if they want to do that action. So we'll say create a new record, view an existing record, or update a record. All right, so their options are going to be new v or in v or u when they do this input here. Okay, and then we'll say if cmd, and we'll go ahead and do dot lower dot strip, doing some string cleanup there. If it's in, then we're going to make a new record. Else if it's a v, we're going to display our record. We're going to show record. All right, show record needs a record file name. So if it needs a record file name, it stands to reason that the other thing we should do if the user selects view an existing record is we should get what file do they want to view. Okay, so we'll say file in. That's a bad name. Let's say record file or user file choice. I like that. All right. So we'll say input, what is the file name? Okay. So we'll say, what is the file name? And then we'll show record with that record file name, which is going to be user file choice. Now, what we might want to do here is help the user out. And so one way we could help the user out is not forcing them to put the .txt on the end of the file name. So we could do that in this way. We could just say record file name will be, actually we don't want to shadow this. Let's see, we'll just say user file choice is going to be, I'm going to change this. We'll say user file input, and then we'll change this to be an F string, so it's going to be user file input plus, or we'll just do it like this, .txt. Yeah, I think that should work. And then we'll use that here, user file choice. Okay, so now we should be able to show a record that we've already created. So let's go ahead and create a new record. Oh, now we got this nice new menu. So we'll say in, all right. Okay, we won, or let's say we lost a game and we were playing puck. Okay. All right, I forgot to put a while loop in there. That's why we didn't get any option to show the records, but maybe we can do that. So let's try, well, no. Let's just put our while loop in there since we need to do that. So, mistake there. We'll say while true. And then put that fella in there. And we need to move this as well. Just notice that. So that belongs there. Expected in. Oh. Perfect. Okay. Now you're starting to see like where we have more opportunities for functions to exist. This is maybe getting a little complicated, but we'll leave it this way for now. All right, so we're going to say new record. We'll say loss. This acts. And then now we're going to view, and actually let's make another game. Let's do another one. We'll say this was a win as Juggernaut. And then we'll do one more. We'll say it was a win as Zeus. All right, and then now let's view. And our file name is new Dota journal. And it did not run the show record method. Oh, that's because we're passing here. We didn't print off anything. Okay, well, it's sort of working. We're getting there. All right, so we will say data, and we'll just do print data. All right, one more time for the win. Let's do L, X, N, W, Juggernaut, and we'll just go ahead and view this. It is new Dota journal. All right, crossing my fingers here. Okay, so now we're reading W and Juggernaut, right? And if we look here, that's the last entry I made. Some of you are probably already thinking like, oh, he's going to make this mistake because I forgot that we were using the W down here. So we're not quite at the point where we're updating records yet. So we can't just continuously, or I mean, we could if we ran some code within our open here. But right now, all we can do is long story short, we're overriding that file every time, right? So every time we run new record, every time we select in, we're creating this new Dota journal, okay? And we're overriding what was in there before. So maybe what we should do is let's go ahead and work on our update a record method, and then we can come back to printing off the data. All right, so if we are updating a record, we can go ahead and put that here. So we say command.lower.strip is u. Then we're going to use our update record method. And that's going to need the same record as show record does. So now we have this opportunity to refactor our code, which is great. And what I mean is we can take this code right here. It does a specific job. It sort of cleans up the user's file choice. We could call that like get file name. And we're going to call that method rather than having to reuse this code. Because otherwise I would reuse this code down here. So we'll go ahead and cut this out. And then we will refactor it up here somewhere. So we can do like getting file name from user. Okay, and then we'll say get file name. That will stick with that for right now. No parameters. So we'll say what is the file name. We'll clean it up, put the .txt on there, and then we can return user file choice. All right, and then we can just call that method here. And maybe that's excessive. I don't know. Actually, I mean, I do. I think that should be refactored. But for you, maybe it seems excessive. We saved a couple lines of code there. And more than likely, we want to do more than just... we will probably, in the end, want to do more than we're doing right here. This will get more complicated. So that's a good reason to go ahead and refactor this into its own function. All right. So now, if we're going to update a record, we need the record as a file, and then we will go ahead and open it up. So we're going to say with open record, and we want to change this parameter to be similar to the other one. So we'll say record file name as F. We will be using the A mode. Okay. All right. So now we also need some data. So we want to update it with a specific, some kind of specific data here. We could pass that data in right here through the function, which probably makes the most sense, or we could put it in the with open. We could put it inside this block. I'm going to go ahead and pass it in as a parameter because I think that makes the most sense. So we can call the new record method. Yeah, cool. Okay, so we can call the new record method here. And we'll pass that in as the updated info, or update info. Sure, looks good. All right, so we'll say f.write update info. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. Let's run it and see what happens. Much easier that way to figure out if it's broken, I think. So let's say new record. We are going to record a win, and then we're going to play Juggernaut. We always win as Juggernaut. Then we're going to update that record. See, now we need the file name. So we'll say new Dota journal. And then we're going to say, did we win or lose? We lost. We were playing Wind Ranger. Oof. We didn't convert it to a string. Okay. So our update info also needs to behave like this right here. Where did we do that? Right here. Yeah, so we need to take this code right here and just copy it. And that's going to be not new record, but update info. Update info. Let's drop that space from both of these because I already noticed that's going to be an issue. All right, and then we'll say Juggernaut, update a record, and it's a new Dota journal. We lost, and we were playing Wind Ranger. Okay, cool. And now let's try viewing that existing record. It's going to be new Dota journal. And it looks okay. It's got all of our data in there, except we have this situation where when we wrote to the file again, it started at the end of our last piece of data. So really what we need there is probably to have, where do we want to put our new line? Probably when we update the record. Or do we want a new line after every new? Maybe it doesn't matter. I haven't thought it through. Let's just try something out. So let's do this exact same scenario. Let me say w juggernaut update new Dota. Why didn't I make a shorter file name? My goodness. L Wind Ranger. Okay, and then we'll view new Dota journal. Nice. Okay. So I get this output right here. It looks good. So I can see where I've had a win and a loss. I can see my hero clearly. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm expecting you to do with your recipe book, except you're going to be dealing with recipes. So this is really bare bones. Some things that you could think about adding, and I'll go ahead and show you like on a separate screen how I might think about going down some of these more advanced tracks. So let's make a new file here, and we'll call it journalentry.py. And this is going to be where we could keep a class that describes a journal entry. So I'll give it a special name like go to entry, and then it's going to have an init, self, and then it might have attributes like hero, win, loss, your rating at that time, narrative, okay, some kind of reflection on like how well you played or something like that. And then of course you can come in here and you can say self.hero is hero, self.win-loss is the win-loss at the time, self.rating. Now this is kind of interesting. You might have a preloaded rating that has a default, like you start at 2700, and then you could say something like self.rating is rating plus 25 if win loss equals win, else minus 25. I don't know if my syntax is right. No, it's not. Well, you could write code similar to that. You could say something like if win loss equals win, then self.rating plus equals 25, else self.rating minus equals rating. Oh wait, that's not right. We're going to say what's this? Minus 25. One second. So we could do something like this. You can take this idea as far as you want it. But ultimately, what we've got right here is the basic program that you're going to be creating for Recipe Book, or it's an example of something very much like it. So you can use this as inspiration. Obviously, it's going to take you a little bit longer to kind of get started, but just keep working with it, and you'll eventually get to where you can work from files pretty easily. Okay. If you have questions for me, you need to post those in Google Classroom, go on Slack, or however you want to get in contact with me. And that's it for now. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing your programs. Thanks. Bye.